Planning Board meeting, Thursday, May 7th, 2020. We will start by recognizing a moment of silence for everybody who has been impacted by this COVID-19 emergency. Okay, thank you. So I'll do a quick roll call. Again, I'm Chairman Stan Carey, Vice Chair Ed Denisesky.
Present.
Member Dick O'Day. Okay, no Dick yet. Member Joe Bear.
Present.
And Member George Nanaro.
Present.
Okay, is Jefferson Murphy with us? Okay, no Jefferson yet. Carissa?
I'm here.
Chris is with us. Greg?
Present.
Greg Bergman, thank you. And John Flood?
Present.
Okay, and I believe we have Dick Ehlers also.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we will go right to the agenda. First item is a discussion item for Long Island Ice and Fuel. Greg, this is your application, so you can take it from here.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'll go over some of the major points on this application. What we have is a site plan application which proposes to add several areas of expansion onto a pre-existing non-conforming commercial industrial building. The expansions consist of a 2,231 square foot office addition with a 2,000 square foot second story and full basement for storage, a proposed 340 square foot addition along the northern portion of the existing building to remove an existing loading dock and add a 533 square foot expansion to the existing building, raise the roof height throughout the building not to exceed 30 feet, and also to add an 826 square foot second story loft area for storage. The application also proposes the demolition of an existing 1,177 square foot pre-existing non-conforming single-story frame structure, which presently houses the office operations for the commercial user. The site plan also proposes a total of 10 parking stalls on site. The proposed site plan application is an unlisted action pursuant to SECRA. Planning staff recommends that the planning board assume lead agency status without the need for coordinated review, and further recommends a negative declaration, as the proposed expansion will not have a significant negative impact to the health, safety, character, or general welfare of the surrounding area. The subject parcel is a 0.89 acre parcel of land which is located on the north side of West Main Street between Rainer and Marcy Avenues. Subject parcel is bordered on the eastern side by the Long Island Cauliflower Association Garden Retail Center, on the south side by Riverhead Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, and on its westerly side by the Green Island Distributors of Greenhouse Supplies. The Long Island Railroad right-of-way is located directly to the north of the subject parcel. Present improvements on the property include a 16,870 square foot commercial industrial building, which houses ice manufacturing and distribution components of the commercial business, as well as a 1,177 square foot detached single frame structure for the office uses. The applicant has, at this point, the applicant has not submitted building elevations. I did prepare pictures on my staff report so you can get a general feel for the building. We will not take any action until the elevations have been submitted. I have been in contact with the design professional. They are working on a few last-minute things on it, and they will be submitted. Elevations will be referred to the Architectural Review Board. The application requires approval from the Zoning Board of Appeals for exceeding the maximum permitted floor area ratio and for side and rear yard setbacks. The denial letter has been issued to the applicant, and they are in the process of making the application to the Zoning Board. No action should be taken on this application, i.e. scheduling a public hearing or preliminary approval, until the applicant receives the necessary relief. The site currently takes access via an existing curb cut on West Main Street and utilizes a filed right-of-way to traverse the Riverhead Chrysler Dodge Jeep property. There are no proposed changes or improvements to this right-of-way. Now, I did just receive a updated site plan from the applicant this afternoon, so this will differ slightly from your report. I will get you a copy of that as soon as it's finalized. But right now, the applicant has provided a parking calculation for the proposed building and the proposed uses. The total required parking pursuant to town code would be 29 parking stalls. Now, in a revised parking plan, the applicant has been able to show 8 parking stalls on the portion of the property that they are currently looking to expand, and they are going to utilize, there are 2 parking stalls within the garage area of the building. So that's a total of 10 on-site parking spaces, and it is noted during a site visit that the use currently parks their vehicle fleet and office work staff on a neighboring parcel. The neighboring parcel is owned by the same entity, but is retained under a different business name. There is a section of town code, specifically section 301-231H, which allows an applicant to utilize off-site parking as long as those spaces are within 200 feet of the premises that are being served. At this point, staff has no objection to the utilization of this off-site parking area, but we do recommend that an easement be filed on the subject property in the event that ownership of either parcel changes in the future. That way it would not create a substandard parking situation. There are no calculations provided yet. The applicant has roughed out that they can fit approximately 20 vehicles on this neighboring site. With the 20 stalls proposed on this neighboring site, as well as the 10 on-site, that would comply with the town parking requirements. So they would not require any relief from the zoning board for this aspect. I did note that the proposed building expansion effectively cuts off access to the northern side of the site. I did refer the site plan to the fire marshal to see if there were any concerns that the fire marshal had regarding access to the rear of the building. They did not have any objections to that. They did just note that they would require fire marshal permits to construct and for any fire suppression systems. As far as landscaping, the site has been historically cleared and there is currently no vegetation on site. There is a requirement in town code section 301-123B, which states that at least 20% of the lot area will be landscaped. Based on the location of the site, the fact that it's sufficiently screened by a number of existing buildings, and the site is hardly visible from the roadway, staff would defer to the planning board with any recommendations for landscaping, but it does not appear as though any landscaping would provide a significant visual screening. In terms of sewer and water, the site is presently connected to the Riverhead Sewer District and is served by the Riverhead Water District. Key water money will be required prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, and any applicable permits from sewer and water will be required as well. Suffolk County Department of Health Services approval will be required for the building expansion, and the plan will be referred to the Suffolk County Planning Commission and the New York State DOT, although there is no work proposed within the state right-of-way. That's the end of my report. I did speak with the applicant. They are not on the call, but I did let them know that I would ask the board if they had any questions, anything that needed to clarify. I can relay that information and we can get those answers if the board desires.
So, Greg, this is Stan. This business sits pretty far back off of West Main Street, and it's really not visible from the road at all, right?
Correct. Yeah. The best image you can see is on page, I believe it's page 4 of my staff report. Really, it's used for a car dealership. The Riverhead Dodge.
Right,
building
right.
is really screening the building. Yeah, you cannot see much of the building at all.
Right. So I bring that up. I don't know how much input the ARB is going to want on this. I mean, it's really not visible from Main Street. It sits pretty far back. So I guess we'll wait and see what they have to say. And the parking, in the parking calculation, does that include, I know you mentioned the trucks used for the business, but do the truck parking get included in that calculation?
Oh, so they did not break it down to that level of detail. That's perhaps something, based on the nature of the use, this is an ice manufacturing plant and warehouse. To transition the use to any other type of use would be a significant undertaking. That's something I think I could probably direct to the applicant. They did not detail the number of trucks that they have versus the number of vehicles. They did not provide specifically truck parking or anything like that. If you'd like.
No, it was just my question. Can they count it as part of the calculation? I mean, it could be to their benefit if they were able to do that according to the code.
I believe they would. I mean, when we look at parking for a use, we don't differentiate. But I mean, like I said, with the calculations and the off-site parking, they do comply with the requirements.
Right. And as far as the easement, because he's using an adjoining parcel that they have control of, I mean, would that be required now, or if they ever had to split the parcels for different use?
The staff would recommend that it would be that filing that easement be made a condition of site plan approval, just because the climate, who knows when either property would sell. I would not want to put up the board or the town or anyone in a situation where it creates an issue down the road. So I would recommend that be a condition of site plan approval.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. I'll go to Ed. Are you still with us? I think Ed just dropped. What about Joe?
Yes. I have several questions. So Greg, railroad siding, is that going to be active?
I'm sorry, what was that first one?
The railroad siding, which is on the north
railroad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not familiar with the railroad siding. I can ask that. Ask the applicant if that'll.
On the site plan, it looks like a dock there or something that they might be able to push product into a railroad car.
As of right now, I don't believe there's any use of the railroad, but I can seek clarification from the applicant.
Next question is there any need for lighting on the site? I don't know if there's any existing. How about new?
They're not proposing any lighting. I could check. We could, as a condition of approval, we ask for standard any non-conforming lighting to be brought into conformance. I will note that
on the buildings, on the new buildings at least, especially in the wintertime when they're still operating and it's dark. Fixed trucks can park in and out, I guess. There should be something.
All right, yeah. I will get that from the design professional.
Okay. Another thing that they show on here is the existing loading dock, which is going to be removed. Where will they then be loading the trucks?
That I'm unsure about. As I said, we haven't seen building elevations yet, so I'm not sure if they plan on having, like bay doors in there, but I will ask that of the applicant. Where will they be loading the trucks?
Okay. It's just a general question, the existing building, is that going to be demolished or moved?
The exit, so on page 2, on page 3 of the staff report, that office building, the detached building, that is going to be demolished.
Okay, thank you. And just curious, since there's no landscaping at all, I wonder if we could require one tree, token tree, somewhere. All right. And just kidding around, but it would be nice to see one plant somewhere.
Right. I can make that recommendation to the applicant.
Even something up the driveway, perhaps, some small plants.
Right. I'll relay that information.
That's all for me.
Okay, George?
Just to add a word in there, I can see trees to the rear of the office space that will be demolished, and also if you take a look up the right-of-way, you can see trees to the west side of that right-of-way. I don't know if you noticed that or not, Joe, but anyway, my question was, your figure 3, Greg. It seems to me that they're going to be building. Are they going to be building on top of this? Is that what this is saying? I'm a little confused with that. Are they going to be building on top of this, and then not to exceed the 30 feet?
I agree with you. The plan is not 100% clear, and that's why we're waiting on elevations. The note on the plan just says raised roof of existing building. It did not specifically delineate which portions of the building.
Okay, because what it seems to me is that they're going to raise this. They're going to. I don't know if there's an existing basement in this building. Okay, and if they were adding to it, it would be a second story. But then, I guess they're proposing to this new structure, this new height, an additional height so they can store whatever on what I'll just call a third story. I mean, that's what it seems to me, but I guess we'll wait for the elevations. I guess that's it. I guess that's it.
All right, and I'll
have to wait for the elevations.
I'll find out if there's a basement as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so for some reason Ed can't get back on, but I am hearing him, and his only comment is, he has no issues with this. This is a great Riverhead business. Okay, with that, we'll go to the next item on the agenda, number 2, Aqua by American Beach snack bar conversion. Greg, that one's yours too, right?
Yep, I'm just getting my report out. Works.
Okay.
All right, so the planning department for this has received a site plan application which proposes to convert the use of an existing 332 square foot detached shed structure, which is located at the site of an existing motel. It's going to be converted from a shed to a snack bar use for guests of the motel. The proposed action is a type 2 action pursuant to SECRA, as it involves the construction or expansion of a non-residential structure less than 4,000 square feet. The subject parcel is a 0.91 acre parcel of land located at 15 Bay Avenue in Aquabog within the Residence B40 zoning use district. The property is located directly on a body of water known as Dreamer's Cove. Subject parcel is presently improved with a 1-story frame motel with a detached frame structure, which was issued a letter of pre-existing use on March 9th, 1998. The property takes access off of Bay Avenue, which is a 24-foot wide privately owned right-of-way on the south side of Peconic Bay Boulevard. The neighboring residential development, known as Aquabog Terrace, is located directly to the east with approximately 39 single-family residences. Just to give a quick detail of the permitting history of the subject property, there have been several building permits that have been issued on the parcel since the town started issuing building permits in 1965, including a permit for an addition to the motel, which was called a solarium, the addition for another first floor addition, a second floor addition, and then there was a permit for a conversion of a recreation room into a guest suite. There were also commercial renovations for an existing lobby, laundry area, and hallways. During a site visit conducted by planning staff, it was noted that there was domestic water service and electrical service to this existing detached shed structure, none of which were mentioned in the letter of pre-existing use, which described it as a shed. It appears as though this work was done without the benefit of a building permit. Pursuant to Town Code 217-12H, the requisite building permit fees will be doubled as this work was done without the benefit of a building permit. On page 3 of my staff report, I've taken a picture of the existing detached shed structure, which gives its relative location relative to the water. It is located approximately 6.5 feet from a functional bulkhead, as I said, on Dreamer's Cove, and the surrounding area is a recreational relaxation area for guests of the hotel. In order to convert the use, the applicant went to the Zoning Board of Appeals. They went to the Zoning Board of Appeals because the town zoning officer had stated that the conversion into a snack bar represented a expansion of a pre-existing non-conforming use. The applicant went to the ZBA for a interpretation, and they found that during its review, the conversion of the use did not represent an expansion of the use. There were some conditions that the Zoning Board of Appeals put on their determination. First condition was that the shed building will be converted into a snack bar, shall not contain any cooking equipment other than a microwave oven. Number two, that there shall be no expansion of the structure of the building within which the snack bar will be located. Number three is that no alcohol shall be served from the snack bar building. Number four, the snack bar shall be used exclusively for the use of patrons of the motel and not open to the general public. And condition number five, that these conditions be contained within the certificate of occupancy for the snack bar. In regards to parking, the survey that was submitted with the application does not identify any delineated parking stalls. They do have a gravel parking area with concrete parking stops, but it does not provide any sort of calculations on the plan. Staff notes that town code requires one parking stall per guest room and one parking stall per 300 square feet of any commercial use. Wise expressed. During the review, it was noted that during all prior building permits that were issued and prior expansion, there was never any parking calculations that were provided or any sort of parking analysis that was done. Based upon the fact, however, that the existing shed structure will be converted into a snack bar exclusively for use by guests of the motel, it does not seem necessary that this conversion would trigger the need for additional parking, nor is staff recommending any need for parking relief. Staff does recommend, however, that parking calculations be provided on a revised copy of the plan. Being that these calculations have never been identified throughout the history of the property, the planning board should be aware of existing parking needs in order to establish a baseline of information on the subject property. As far as the Suffolk County Department of Health Services, as I stated during a site visit, it was noted that the existing shed structure contained a functioning sink, which was installed without the benefit of the building permit, and it is unclear where the sink wastewater is discharged. As per Suffolk County Department of Health Services standards, prior to the construction of all new buildings or additions with or without internal plumbing, changes of use, it will require approval from the health department. Prior to the issuance of a building permit, approval from the Suffolk County Health Department will be required for wastewater management as well as food service. The application does not require referral to the Suffolk County Planning Commission, as it involves less than 5,000 square feet. Any additional considerations that the board may wish to consider, including use of playing outdoor music, the requirement for filing covenants on the property, etc., should be considered and will be included in any approvals granted by the planning board. Now, being that the applicant has already had their Zoning Board of Appeals, they have had the public hearings as required by the Zoning Board of Appeals, and there were neighbors of the residential neighborhood, the Achabak Terrace. They did come out to speak about the application, which was part of the reason why the zoning board imposed the conditions of its determination. Being that this site plan does fall under the scope of administrative site plan review, the planning board, in its discretion, can waive the need for an additional public hearing on this application. If the board agrees that an additional public hearing is not required, staff can prepare an administrative approval and include any conditions that the board may require. And that's it.
Okay, Greg. So I think you bring up a good point about the music. Did you notice if there were any kind of speakers or anything set up where they could have outside music?
I did not note any speakers that were connected, either on the outside of the building, any of those little external speakers. I did not notice that.
Okay.
But if the board wishes, they can add something to that.
I would like to capture that in one way or another, that we're not approving outdoor music. Also, I'm pretty sure you mentioned that it's only for the patrons of the hotel?
Correct.
Okay. Are there any? Do you know how long that shed has been there?
The shed was issued a letter of pre-existing use, meaning it predates zoning and building permits within the town of Riverhead, which started in 1965. So it's been there since at least 1965.
Yeah, but has it? I mean, that's a picture you took of it, right? I mean, out on that little pier.
Yeah. Well, I actually did take that picture from the hotel's website. The picture I took during site visit didn't really orient the picture, so I think that was the best representation of where the shed is and where it's located on the property.
Okay. All right, and now, I'm just kind of debating. I guess I'll wait to hear from the other board members about the public hearing. I don't know if there are neighboring communities that may want to be heard on this. This could be a tricky one, and I'll defer for a few minutes until we hear from the others. Okay, with that, I'll go to Joe Bear. Joe, you with us?
Okay, I'm here. You were talking about the possibility of music. I was also concerned about hours of operation.
Mm-hmm.
And is there any lighting on the building, etc., right now, or should some be provided, especially if if they open in the evenings?
There is no additional lighting proposed. I mean, they do have, it is kind of like a beach atmosphere. They did have some string lights and such present on site.
Yeah.
I mean, the motel has been in operation. I don't think lighting is, it wasn't presented to be an issue for them at the moment.
Oh. Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, George?
The only question I have, looking at the picture that's rendered, figure 10, it looks like, what are they doing there now, Greg? It almost looks like it's a complete little area there now.
So, the exterior of the site, it's used for the guests of the motel. They can go out there, have some food and drinks. I did not see any sort of food service operations in the building when I saw it. It really looked like it was just currently used sort of for storage. So, they did have a sink and they did have electrical, but it really looked a lot for storage right now.
Okay. All right, so I guess all they're going to do is put some sandwiches in the microwave oven, and that's it. You can bring your beer or whatever to one of the benches that are right outside. I really don't take any offense to any of it, really. I'm good.
Okay. Ed communicated to me he doesn't have any issues either. Just one last question, Greg. Could boats pull up to this?
No, there is no docking or any sort of pier.
Okay.
There is no mechanism for that.
All right. And there was a public hearing through the zoning already, right?
Yes, sir, and that's where some of the concerns regarding alcohol service and use for the general public as opposed to guests of the motel. I believe that's where some of those conditions stem from.
Okay. All right. What's the board's feeling on a public hearing or leaving it as administrative?
I'd leave it as administrative myself.
I'm agreeing with that.
Okay. And we base that on the conditions that the zoning has already put on it, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay. And Ed is saying admit to, so, okay. So that's, we'll leave it as administrative with those conditions, Greg, okay?
All right. So now I can prepare an administrative resolution. The one thing, just to recap a couple of things, no outdoor music, live or amplified. Is that at all times, or do you want to consider that with the hours of operation? Not past 8 or 9 o'clock or in compliance with town code. How would the board like to address that?
I would say compliance with town code. I mean, hours with town code.
All right, I'll prepare that in the resolution, before I when I distribute it to the board, I will present it to the applicant's attorney. If he has any objection or issues with that, I suppose he can write his concerns to the board, and we can address it at that point.
Okay, that's fine. All right, that's it, Greg?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. All right, the next one is a Chapter 219 permit. John Flood, you're up.
All right, thank you, Stan. So, Planning Department has received and reviewed a Chapter 219 coastal erosion hazard line permit application to construct a 270 linear foot tall rock revetment wall using 1 to 4 ton stone at the toe of the bluff terrace and plant